Josh Beaver.
Hey, how you doing, Jeremy? Good to see you, brother.
It's good seeing you, man. We made this happen, dude.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that we finally connected, man. I've been wanting to do it, so definitely glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm really appreciative that you decided to do it because I think it's important, to get people's stories out there from the global war on terrorism.
I completely agree, man. It's not to sidebar us here, but with the veteran suicide epidemic kind of being the worst in human history, I think predates back to us being little boys and being told not to talk about emotions and feelings, and then we go off to combat, and I think those guys come home with that same mentality, and it's the more that I've learned about it, the more that I can see how that kind of plays a role into what's causing that suicide epidemic. But yeah, it's important, like you said, man, that we tell each other stories. And I know as combat vets and vets in general, we normally are not a highlight type person where we like to talk about our feelings and our experiences. But I do think it's important for the reasons you mentioned.
Yeah, and, I talked about this with a retired Sergeant Major Marine Corps guy long time ago. He was on the show. He said the same thing. He said like veterans, right? But then there's like combat veterans. I hate to say there's a difference, but there is. Like the ones that were actually like doing a lot of stuff, it like we would only understand certain aspects because we've done similar things.
100%. No, I agree, man. It's ironic to say that too, because I know there's a lot of veterans that kind of wishes they went to the fight, or they feel bad that they didn't go to the fight. And my thought to that is, as we all say, when you go in, it's kind of predated, right? When you turn 18 and when you are able to kind of answer that call. But if there's not a conflict going on, there's nothing for you to join, right? So there's no reason to feel that way. But no, I agree with you too, man, because the experiences are a bit different, but still linked similar.
Yeah. How do you feel about like the younger generation? They want to get in the Marine Corps instance, like the combat action ribbon, or in the or like in the Army, like they want their combat infantry badge, or like me, I was a combat medic, so they want their combat medic badge. How do you feel about those guys wanting to get that stuff?
You know what, and guys differ on that. That's a great question, man. I actually think it's a good thing. I mean, I don't think it takes actually going through combat to realize that it's something that is not going to be fun, or something that is not going to be a picnic by any means. But that's what I think makes our country great, man. And I really mean that, is that we have people that have a basic understanding of what that's going to entail, and they're still willing to go do it. And you guys know too. All the training that we do, everything that we do to prepare for the fight, it's almost like, I always try to equate it to playing football, man. It's like preparing for the Super Bowl, but you never play the Super Bowl, right? So like everybody
Yeah.
wants to play the Super Bowl, man. If you're practicing, for the big show, you wanna
Yeah.
participate. So I think it's a good thing, man. You know what I mean? Because it's genuine. Those are the same
Yeah.
guys who do go to combat and they do great. You know what I mean? But it
Yeah.
starts being wanting to do something like that.
Yeah. And do you think like obviously like I can relate. I don't know how old you were when you deployed, but we'll get into that. I was 18, and as a young, I was kind of ignorant, because like what comes with the combat too, like I agree with you because we do need people that are willing to go out there and do the work, but like there's also, like you said, the veteran suicide thing where they have to go back and then they have to relive with what they've done too.
100%. I apologize for that.
No, you're good.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's a double-edged sword, because I think there's two different types, right? There can be somebody who wants to go be in the fight because they're truly answering the call for their country, and they feel that call to service. And then there's
Yeah.
those who want to go because of what they think is glory or something like that. And I tell people, and even as young boys, I don't think that because a young boy is seeking glory that's a bad thing. But I think we all did as young boys to some extent. But yeah, it's the for those of us who've been, it's the most disgusting thing you could ever do, right? And it's not something that you'll ever look back on with in a glory sense, or in that nature. And it's just important, that they understand that although it's risking your life and things, it's also, like you said, there's going to be things that you're going to bring back from that simply that will never leave you, and it changes you forever. So some good, some bad, but there's definitely a new process and a new learning curve once you get back and once you've been through it.
That's
That you're not going to see in the movies and things like that.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it too, man. Like I tell a lot of people, especially my parents or my loved ones, my aunts, I always tell them like, yeah, part of me died over there too, like
I say the same, man.
and it's actually kind of hard to explain to people, like you said, it's I guess disgusting, but I always thought about the person left to right of me more than anything. Like
That's it.
it didn't matter what I did. I just only cared about them.
Dude, completely agree on that, man. It's ironic you said that because it took me a while to kind of shift my perception of what that really was. And being in Fallujah and places like that where we're stacking bodies on street corners at the end of the day, for every block that we're clearing. I remember being a young Marine smoking a cigarette and looking at those piles, and looking at the Marines getting loaded onto Amtraks and just thinking to myself, you have almost like that divine moment where you're like, this isn't the right way. Like we're not. And I think we know that as human beings, but like you're able to feel it like on a granular level that it's a shame, that at the end
Yeah,
of the day, whether it be politicians or whoever, that's how we're kind of separating our differences is piling each other's bodies on street corners to settle a score, right? And
right.
anyway, but yeah, no, it's no, I agree with you 100% on that, man. I
Yeah.
feel like just a piece of you dies, and it's part of what it is, and yeah, that's kind of why I started this TikTok thing too and stuff, was hopefully to bring guys together and try to
Hmm.
revive some of those things. Because I know different vets, right, that have had different experiences. Some have found things that have worked that have helped them heal,
Yeah.
and some have found other things that have helped in other areas, right? And it's like trying to, like, your podcast I think was huge. One of the first things that I really noticed was bringing guys together to tell stories, tell their experiences, so we can create some sort of pathway through experience of what works and what other guys have tried to have been down that road. And I think it's going to ultimately be what really addresses PTSD. And no disrespect to the medical profession or anything, but this is a unique nuance, right? This
Yeah.
combat. And I think it really takes people being in there to be an integral part of that, to discover kind of how we're going to heal.
Yeah. So since you were in the Marines, and what's today's? I think just I mean a couple days ago, we ended the war, or we didn't end the war, but those 13 service members died in Afghanistan, ending the war in GWAT, right? Because we ended it this month. Like, how did you feel? Like, we don't have to get too political or anything, but how did you feel like it went down? Like, hey, like, obviously it was a debacle. I don't know if you've seen my last 3 episodes or anything, but they are all guys that were there during the Afghanistan pullout, and it's man, it's so eye opening, dude. Like, I can't fathom, dude.
It's odd too that when you talk about that situation, it's like people want to jump on a political side of the aisle over that. And like, to me, it's throw politics out of it. I don't care if it's somebody on the left, the right, the center, wherever. Like that entire from the pullout onward, man, it's just been a disaster,
Yeah,
right? And like, it's hard for me to fathom sometimes because I feel like within Iraq, where I spent most of my time deploying and fighting, there's been that victory in a sense where the people have taken over, they've learned how to fight. Obviously, we trained them, but in Afghanistan, it's still very much up in the air thing, and just the
yeah,
amount of blood that we've invested, man, and the amount of treasure, and just the sacrifice. Even guys who come home, like you said, they're coming home different, man. Like we're so the guys who come home without gunshot wounds are considered non-casualties, man. But you can't go through that without it affecting you, right? And I think
yeah,
they're just as much casualties as anybody else. But yeah, it's during the initial pullout. I actually had a parade here in Houston, man. I was really passionate about it. I was just kind of disgusted that had happened with the Biden pullout, and that those 12 Marines had died, and or 13, excuse me, I believe. I think one was a Navy corpsman, but
uh,
yeah, I just basically started on
soldier.
Facebook, man. It was like, hey, anybody who wants to come out to downtown Houston and help me kind of shut down the streets so we can draw attention to this, not politically, but just that there was young warriors who lost their life because of a political leader making a military decision. You think that's where those lines get blurred, man. And people say, well, sometimes, well, I don't think there should be a sometimes when the end result for us is death. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? We're not losing stock. We're not losing profit share. Like, guys are dying. And so there needs to be those clear boundaries. But yeah, the city of Houston came out, man. They always do when it comes to things like this. And I was shocked. We marched downtown and had American flags. I have pictures and things I can shoot to you. But yeah, it was just it's cool too to see the American people, man, see that and then set aside some of their political differences to really kind of be just on board for the fallen. You know what I mean? Like that.
Yeah.
I don't know why we're losing that in this country, where it's got to be a left or right argument, like without just being able to support the fallen. So yeah, 100%, man. I haven't been happy with it, been kind of disgusted by it, and hope that it changes. To be honest with you.
Yeah, it's a wild event, man. Like I didn't know up until recently that we were working with the Taliban. We were giving them money
Mm-hmm.
and weapons. I mean, that's why I'm pretty sure they worked out the equipment deal. That's probably why it stayed over there, you know. And it's sad, dude, because we're the most feared military in the world, and we just kind of just like poofed. Like you just like, hey, escaped in the middle of the night, you know, and that was it.
Bro, and that's the thing too. Like I got hit with a 155 shell. That's an American round, you know. And when I got wounded in an ambush in Iraq, and people will
Yeah,
ask, like, how are you getting wounded with an American round? And exactly to your point, man, it's because we were supplying these guys. You know, when they were fighting even Bin Laden was our key contact. He was our key ally fighting the Soviets when they invaded Afghanistan. You know, and
yeah,
so yeah, man, there's ties deeper. I've noticed too, ties a lot deeper than we know for sure.
yeah. So what? How did you? Let's get into your career, man. Like, how did
Yeah.
you go about joining the Marine Corps?
Yeah, so to be honest with you, man, I was a senior September 11th when that happened, a senior in high school. And I was looking to go to the Citadel Military College. I already gone and come from a long line of Marines, a lot of snipers in my family. And so it's kind of predestined for me. But the thought process at that time, before the global war on terrorism became, born, was to go to the Citadel, become an officer, try that route, have my college degree, and move forward from there. And then obviously September 11th happened. We could see everything that was gearing up to happen, and all I could think was, this war is going to be over. This is, once again, like you're saying, being an 18-year-old kid, this war is going to be over in like 8 months to a year. So
Yeah,
I don't want to be stuck in college, playing military school games with guys out in combat, and then have to lead them one day and expect them to listen to me, right? So I said, you know what, I'll go enlisted. Family wasn't very happy about that, but I just, and I tell people it's not a heroic thing, man. I feel like there's just something in certain people. No, you had to have felt it, and everybody else that we served with. It's something that just draws you to it. And I don't. Some people call it, the nation's call, and things of that nature. But I don't know. I'm a faith guy, and I believe that God's just put something in us that's made for that, that's made to handle that, and that's why we're magnetized to it. But yeah, so I decided not to go with the college route, enlisted in the Marines, and was going to go the enlisted route, and went off to MCRD San Diego in '02. Once again, right after September 11th had occurred, and knew I was going to fight. I knew I wanted to start infantry, and then I'd work my way into more of a specialized skill, like being a scout sniper. But
hmm
in the Marine Corps, everybody starts out as an infantry guy. You're going to go in and really learn your infantry basics. That's why you'll hear that motto that every Marine's a rifleman, because they're very key on that. That everybody, whether you're a cook, candlestick maker, or baker, you know how to operate your rifle and fight. And so yeah, so I went off MCRD, graduated there, did very well in the structure, liked the lifestyle, and went off to School of Infantry at that point. Completed that course. That was that was Camp Pendleton, so just north of boot camp at MCRD. And at that point, got deployed to my first infantry unit. So I went over to 3rd Battalion, 7th Marines in 29 Palms, which for any Marines who have ever been at 29 Palms, it's like the death sentence, the one place you don't want to go, because you always hear that Marines are pretty buff out there, and also may have an alcohol problem, because those are the only two things you can do in 29 Palms in the desert, is drink and lift. So,
Yeah,
yeah, man. So went off to 29 Palms to join 3rd Battalion, 7th Marines. Was proud to be part of 7th Marines. They're very heralded. And that's when it began, man. I was already on a plane to Iraq within 3 weeks of graduating
yeah.
School of Infantry. Yeah.
How does that? Can you explain to that like the battalion and then the fourth Marine? How does that work? Like, can you explain what that stuff?
Yeah. So we've got, for each regiment, we've got different battalions, right? So you'll have, in 29 Palms, for example, is the 7th Marines. So you'll have 1-7, which is 1st Battalion, 7th Marines, 2-7, 2nd Battalion. 3-7, and then it's kind of an offshoot. You won't see this anywhere else, but they also have 3rd Battalion, 4th Marines, which is just kind of a filler to add to the 7th Marines.
Yeah.
So they retained that regiment. So yeah, there's 4 battalions within that regiment. And then within each regiment, that's when they form up into the division. So the 1st Marine Division is all the West Coast Marines, 2nd is East Coast, and then the 3rd is Okinawa, Japan. So covering kind of all spots of the globe. But you also see it geographically where, you know, the different environments kind of create different Marines. So in 29 Palms, we make desert Marines because we always had a joke that, you know, they just put us on a plane and flew us in a circle and landed us back at 29 Palms when we got to Iraq because it looks the same.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then over on the East Coast, it's more wooded terrain. So better for that type of environment. And then Okinawa is the jungle stuff. So
yeah. So so you have a long lineage of being in the Marine, your family being in the Marines and stuff like that. Were they all enlisted or officers? Is that why they felt kind of discouraged with your decision making?
A little bit of both, yeah. And see, my dad was a Vietnam vet, man. He was in Way City with the Marines and Khe Sanh when they were surrounded there. So my family's kind of found ourselves in somehow being in kind of the nightmare scenarios. But I think for my dad, it was now that I've kind of gone through it. I think he knew kind of what combat was going to be, and I think in his mind, he just wanted me to be as prepared as possible to really educate myself on what I was doing and not have to learn on the fly like a lot of us had to do, man. You know what I mean? Like say the Battle of Fallujah is where, you know, it turned us into you got to know your skill set in Fallujah, because if you survived it, then you're pretty shit hot. But if you don't, you could still be shit hot. But yeah, really putting those skills to the test, man, and so I think he was trying to prevent me from that. But yeah, they although they were like discouraged by it because we had this whole plan set out, I'd already visited the campus. They understood. I think they were just worried, man. Kind of like any of our parents, right? There was really after the time, man. They didn't know what was coming.
Yeah. And did you like know right away you were going to go infantry or something like that?
I did, man. I knew I wanted to fight, and I thought as a younger kid, man, I didn't really know what I wanted to do professionally yet, as I think most do. But I was wise enough to realize like I needed to, you know, I grew up without my dad a lot of the years. He had PTSD as a combat Marine in Vietnam, and him and I reestablished our relationship, and he was great, but he just had some issues as I was growing up, and I think that I was missing some key things there that I needed like to develop as a man. And I was always so grateful that I was able to see like I needed discipline. I needed a few other things, I think, before I started like my adult life. And I knew the Marines would do that. And I think that was another like key personal piece, not just the family lineage, but looking at like really what this could do for me as an individual. And it would give me time to figure out what I wanted to do, man, but also kind of learn leadership. And because, you know, we talk about leaders as being somebody that's popular, and you and I know that's ridiculous. You know, you start shooting at that person and ask them to drive forward a resolution plan, man, they could be quaking in their boots, right? So, but that was really it for me, man. Learn those key skill sets.
How did you think your boot camp went? Like, was it a little bit challenging for you, like physically, or it's just like another day in the office, or what?
You know, they do a good job as recruiters, kind of getting you geared up for that. But yeah, it was tough, man, for sure. Anybody who says anything different either hasn't been or is lying to you. But yeah, it was because you're also, I think, as a kid, you're kind of being cut off of all the lifelines that you've ever had, whether it be your family and your girlfriend, anything of that nature. And now you're with people who, you know, they're there for one reason, and that's for you to deliver results. And you better be prepared to do that, you know, and they don't care if you're having a bad day or you're feeling sick, man. You just better be able to show up. But I think that was, once again, man, key for me as a young man to realize like that nobody owes you anything. Nobody's coming to save you. And when times get tough, man, that you're going to have to just go within and find that version of you that can overcome whatever's in front of you. And I think that experience like really taught me, man, that it's in there. It's not that you have it or I don't, or I think it's always the ones who can just find it within. And I think we all have it. And so, yeah, just key. I mean, the list could go on and on, right? But just key things, man, that really, but it was difficult for sure, man. It tests you physically, mentally, all of it.
I think you're right, man. Like the purpose, right? the purpose. And I think that's a little bit of a challenge, right, with our military now. It's like we don't really have a we're not in a war, so it's like what's the purpose of doing things, I guess you could say.
Mm.
And like you said, like, oh, when we get further into it, like I loved doing my job downrange, right? Like that, doing my job, actually doing my job, not the garrison crap that we have to deal with, but
Yeah, yeah.
actually doing my job, And I think what you said is right. People need to find it. Resiliency need to be tested, right? Because I always talk about. I don't know if you've seen these shows where like celebrity fit people are like going to be a Navy SEAL or doing all this other
Yeah.
stuff, right? And I just talked to one of my friends about it. I'm like, yeah, that's cool and all until you get the unknown factor when the instructor's
Right.
like like the instructor's telling you to wake up at 1 o'clock every day and you're only getting 1 hour of sleep. They don't do that on the TV show.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, that's the difference. They're talking about being a television Navy SEAL, right? But being
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you put them through the real stuff, those guys are leaving on day one.
Yeah, absolutely. So how did the infantry thing work out? Like, were you a rifleman first or
Yeah,
a
so I
motorman?
started out as a rifleman. The way the Marine Corps squad kind of works and fire team is I started out carrying the SAW, Squad Automatic Weapon M249, which is back then. I know they've since changed it, but it was the automatic rifleman for the squad, there were three teams. Supposedly, there was supposed to be three teams, but in the Marine Corps, I never saw three full fire teams. We were always
Yeah,
shorthanded, right? Like two, usually two full teams at best. But yeah, I started with the SAW man and really learned how to employ kind of that automatic rifle and understand like in combat, especially in a city environment, man, because it's heavier. It's got to be employed differently than what I think we do a lot on remote ranges or as we're kind of shooting down range at targets. But it really taught me, and that's the one crazy thing about war is like it sounds insane, but the on the job training, man, I think is unmatched. I mean, you have your adrenaline, you have your focus, you're literally your best version of yourself. At least myself and the guys I've spoken to, when that kicks in, you're zeroed in. You're almost like a lion on the hunt, um, and it really taught me how to look at those different situations, do a lot of reflection. We did a lot of debriefs, right? And would write down exactly what happened with the squad, and then we'd review that, right? And once again, teaching you as a young man to look at something you do professionally, go back over it, see what you did well, see what you could improve on, and actually take action and do something about that. That's kind of a case history, and I learned that with starting with that machine gun, man, and did really well with it, to be honest with you. Surprisingly well. I didn't think I was going to do too well. Wasn't too happy about being assigned that at first, but but yeah, I did well with it, man, and I
yeah.
learned it pretty quickly.
How long? What month and year did you get to? You said 29 Palms, right? That's the first duty station.
Yeah.
Yeah. What month and year did you get there?
So I have to double check. So I
Like
graduated.
roughly.
Yeah, I would say right around February, March of 03,
Oh wow. Okay.
2003. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. And so you get to 29 Palms. You guys are what's day one like when you first get there?
Yeah. So honestly, the most of the battalion had already shipped over. So as we had gotten there, we were just prepared. We were like kind of the final bit of guys that were trickling in here that were immediately being sent over to join them. So that's what it was for us. We were basically told like, don't get comfortable, get your stuff together, and we're getting ready to ship you over, and you're going to meet up with the unit before the invasion. And that's what we did. We took planes. I'd say within 2 weeks, man.
Oh
Took
wow.
planes, and it was kind of a group of guys that were all going to different units. But
Yeah.
once we got to Kuwait, they'd split us up and send us from there. But yeah, so it was not the traditional sense, man, because like I said, they were already overseas.
Man, so did they already know? So this is February. Did they didn't know that they were going to invade Iraq? Were they just doing force multiplier type stuff or what?
Yeah, so the Marine Corps is really big on, and that's exactly right. You're not going to hear anything about it. Covertly moving troops, and they'll do a slow build up over time, so
Yeah.
that obviously the news doesn't catch hold. And you'll notice that even the Ukrainians are doing this right now with different operations. They're just slowly adding to each group, and then right at the end they'll strip and pull.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they were just starting to already build up. I think us being kind of the first to fight, and we're the first in. They want to make sure we're over there, right, in
Yeah.
case things pop off. So think that was kind of it. Just get us over there, get us acclimated, and start getting us ready for
Yeah.
what that was going to be, man.
Yeah. Man, that is wild. So like how long were you guys in so we're talking about like maybe end of February, beginning of March. How long were you guys just hanging out in Kuwait? Like what were you guys doing?
Yeah, so we were standing, basically just training, man, standing post, which is kind of weird, but you'd stand post, and just as far as you could see, desert, man. And you'd see Kuwait City, which has Gucci, and it's crazy. It's kind of like here, man. I never expected that. There's streets. I mean, they have a lot of money over there, and
Yeah.
streets where girls are walking with the Gucci bags and stuff, and the guys are hollering at them and stuff, just like here. It's just kind of their own version, but yeah, man, we were doing a lot of training. It's crazy though, because where our bases were was right where like that highway to hell was, where back in the 90s when Desert Storm kicked off, where Saddam was retreating from Kuwait and those Marine Corps fighter pilots came in and just destroyed his entire army. And those burned out tanks and vehicles are still on the side of the road to this day, man, literally
Yeah.
as far as you can see. So yeah, we would just got over there training. They were shooting at us like Scud missiles. I do. That was our first, like my first taste of being engaged was they shot these Scud missiles at us that
Yeah.
when they hit, they'll blow up like a football field, right? So yeah, that was kind of, but yeah, we were just basically training. But then like I said, I got a taste with that Scud missile, and I didn't like. To this day, I tell people artillery I think is the worst part because one spot's as good as the next, right? Like
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
gotta cross your fingers, man, and hope that no matter how shit hot you are, how good you are as an operator, man. Um, it's kind of like fish in a barrel in that scenario. But
Yeah. Yeah. What was like the so my friend was in the invasion, he was in the army, and I asked him the same thing. What is like y'all's like loadout looking like, and like how are you obviously we don't have armored vehicles or anything yet either.
no, dude. So when we first, yeah, that's a great point. A lot of people don't know that, but when we first got there, we still had soft doors, man, like
Yeah.
tent fabric as doors on the Humvees and stuff, and because the IED threat wasn't exactly known yet, or we didn't realize it was going to be as extensive as it was. So yeah, we basically with the Marines, man, we just load up on ammunition and water. You have food as well, but obviously you have your med bag. We were really keen too on making sure that the way your loadout was positioned on your flak, that it was the same, that it would be to your Marine to your left and right. You can make small adjustments, whether it be if a magazine is kind of clipping your elbow and making your natural point of aim kind of waver, you can make slight adjustments. But the goal was that if one of us got hit, we would know where to get the ammo off a brother and where to find his med kit. Because if everybody had it everywhere else, right, you're searching for it, and you don't have time like that to waste in combat. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was very much. I would say we had probably about. I like to carry more than most guys because I was always worried, and come to find out later in my career, it became true. But that we'd run low on ammo, so I always carried about 8 mags. But I know most Marines carried about six full mags of about 25 each.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the M16, then the Grenadiers and things would have their 203 rounds. They'd have a webbing that they would wear with
Hmm.
different rounds, usually about 30, and then probably 3 drums for the saw per fire team. You'd have about supposed to be 3 on paper, but what I saw in combat was usually about 2 teams, so 2 different saws on that squad.
What are you guys getting briefed like? Excuse me. When you're gonna drive into Iraq, when they decide like, hey, we're going into an invade, you guys are going, the army's going. What are they telling you guys?
Yeah, so we basically we got formed up out in the sand, man, and it's so you live in these like big circus tents.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
odd, man. It's like these huge circus tents, and I'm sure you remember them too. But yeah, they formed us up outside of one of those tents, and they basically told us that we had been waiting because we knew it was coming. So it was kind of like almost a relief. We all wanted to go at that point because we just felt like we were wasting time out in the middle of the desert.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, they formed us up and told us, man, yeah, we're getting ready to push. It's going to be tonight. They told us the same day, though. They didn't tell us, give us, 24 hours, 36. And so, yeah, we started, everybody started forming up, man. You knew what Amtrak that you were going to be in. And you basically went with that stick within that Amtrak. And it was kind of cool, man, because we were all lining up on the border. They had stereo systems on the different Amtraks, and a lot of the Marine Corps Amtrak crews were playing, you know, hard rock and different things like that as you're getting ready to rock. So it's
Yeah.
kind of cool in that sense. But I just remember being tense, man, as a young guy, just because you don't know what's coming, and you know
Yeah.
that it's real, and now it's real, and all bullshit and bravado aside, like. But I think most guys have this too. But I think my biggest thing was, and I've never met a combat vet who said anything different. You're more worried about doing something to get one of your brothers killed than you are about getting killed. It's odd, man. It's like, because you can, if he gets you and he just, you know, better man, he beats you on that day, that's something you can live with. But if you miss something, or you took a shortcut or something, and one of your guys or one of your, you know, fellow brothers died, that's something to live with. That I think would be brutal. So I think I was kind of worried about that. I just wanted to make sure, and I wasn't a leader yet, but I just wanted to make sure that I knew my sector, I knew what I had to do, knew my, you know, interlocking lines of fire, knew what was expected of me, and I executed, man.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so just being tense and kind of going through those mental games of
Yeah.
what's going to happen.
Yeah. You know, I always equate that back to saying that I cared, right? And I used to always, as a medic, I used to always play scenarios in my head and just try to think and do stuff like that. So I understand fully, just like the it's not like you're like tension. It's just like you're hyper focused, I guess you could say.
Yeah, it's just
You
kind of,
know?
yeah, exactly right, man. Like you're like
Yeah,
lying on the kill, man. You know what I mean? Like you're just
yeah,
lasered in.
yeah. And honestly, like I said, dude, it goes back to you care, dude. You care about the person left and right. You don't want your leadership, like you don't want to let people down, and that's a big deal, you know, because people don't realize. What do they say? It's like, hey, if you mess up, I have to fix it. If I mess up, somebody dies.
That's right, man. Yep.
Right. So it's kind of like it's like that saying, you know, and it's hard as an 18-year-old, you know, that's like you got a lot of responsibility going into a war zone at 18.
Huge, man. Yeah, huge. Where, you know, how many 18-year-olds are you asking to be perfect? You know, and then combat.
Yeah.
I always try and tell people I've really tried to nail this down to find the right verbiage for it, man. And the best thing I've ever come up with was combat reminds me of trying to find a level of perfection
Yeah.
and a maelstrom of chaos and confusion, man. And to ask an 18-year-old to do that is pretty tough, right? They're still trying to make their bed consistently, I think, a lot of times. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So where do they tell you guys are headed to?
So yeah, we just knew that we were going to be headed towards. So they don't give you and it's, you know, I always thought it was weird, man, because like, who are we going to call and give this to with the operational security? But they just told us we would be towards the east of the country, east center. So we knew we'd be going up, and everybody's kind of following different rivers as kind of our guiding points, because it's just desert, man. Until you get into the cities, obviously, but yeah. So we just knew we were going to be on the eastern side. I was with 3-4 at that time, so we went up, and our first big battle, and we were getting little engagements here and there as we were coming up. But like I said, the bottom half of the country is a lot of sand, smaller towns. You'll do some fighting, but the closer you got to Baghdad is where it started to stiffen up, and where the Republican Guard was starting to fight us. And Al Qut was a big airfield that Saddam wanted to hold, and that was our first big battle there. And well, after Fallujah and Ramadi, I wouldn't say big battle, but it was a serious engagement. And and yeah, that was my first taste of the show, man, and first time that I'd ever taken life. And it was hard on me at first, man, to be honest with you. Consider myself to be as tough as any guy on this earth, but that was a very intimate thing to do that. And we were engaging back and forth with each other, man. I mean, literally, he was in the standing, I was in the kneeling, on 2 street corners, and just almost like a duel. Just ran into each other that way. And but yeah, I remember struggling with that at first. But then it's like the bullets are flying again, and you're right back into it. It's, I think, something you just repress or you push back. But I remember being kind of shocked by that. I mean, I'm glad that it did, but I remember thinking, like, does that make me weak? Because you start playing with those emotions, man, like live as a kid, right? Like you're 18 years old.
Yeah.
I think I was 19. And but yeah, then you're right back into it. You realize I don't have time to think about that right now. And yeah, we actually took artillery rounds there for a while across the river. They were hitting us with artillery rounds, and hearing those screaming down. We were one of the few units to get hit with those. And we just kept inching our way. So we took Al Qut, took that airfield, kept inching our way to Baghdad. You do a lot of positioning, because different units are either ahead based on contact, right? Some are delayed based on whatever they've run into. So you're trying to get abreast, everybody get kind of back online before we got to Baghdad. But as we're getting to Baghdad, we're in mop suits, the chemical suits. And I kid you not, man, I tell people that we were starting to lose guys more to foot injuries than we were to combat fire, man. And for
Yeah.
those who don't know, those chemical suits go over our boots, over the camis, right? And guys were
Yeah.
taking those chemical boots off, which go over their normal boots and pouring the sweat out of them, man.
Oh
That was,
God.
guys' feet were turning into hamburger. And because we all thought that, Saddam had been threatening to hit us with chemical weapons. And I remember
Yeah.
being really kind of like, fuck, I mean, really kept that gas mask close, man.
Yeah.
And being really kind of fearful of that. But yeah, the closer we got to Baghdad, the more we fought. But Al Qud, I think, was the standout battle for us during the
Yeah.
invasion.
You said a lot there, and then I want to highlight what you said about like taking someone's life, man. And for people that are watching this that think they're just gonna be able to, I'm not saying it's not gonna happen. What I'm saying is like those people that carry a gun and they're like, oh, I could just shoot somebody. I'm like, dude, it's not as easy as it sounds, dude. And it's something like you said, you have to struggle with it the rest of your life, and then at first you're like, damn, am I kind of weak and stuff like that? But then realize, like, in some moments, even in bad moments like that, you're gonna be humanized at some point,
100%. And I thought about that a lot over the years. And as I've gotten older, I've just kind of realized that that's what makes us good men. There's good men and there's bad men that fight war. Sometimes I think there's good on both sides, but that's what makes us good, man, is that we're not quick to kill. We're not okay with doing that. Like, we'll do it if need be, but what we're the type of people I think that like to seek every other alternative first before it comes to that. And so, I'm proud of that, man, because if you think about the alternative, if when I got to this point, second and third tour, where it just becomes natural, man. Like, most guys I've spoken to in combat, they don't know their kill count. You get to a place like Fallujah, you stop counting after day one, man, because it starts making your stomach hurt. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what I meant with the glory comments before, is that, like, you don't, and I was kind of shocked by that. You would think like, well, this is proof of my skill set. And this means and you are proud of that, but it makes your stomach, I remember my stomach being sick from it, man. And it's just kind of the nature of the beast. It's one thing that you think, and then it's a whole nother experience right on the other side. And I think that I agree with you 100%.
Yeah. So what were they? So they briefed y'all that Saddam was gonna hit y'all with chemical attacks, because you guys are okay. So we're like probably like what, maybe like April, May.
Yeah.
So did they tell you what he was gonna hit y'all with, or he was just like, hey, everybody, they just told y'all get in the mop gear?
We had initially thought he was going to hit us with this the minute we crossed. That was kind of the threat. And then we knew that it was going to be the closer we got to Baghdad due to desperation, because at that time we all thought he was still in Baghdad. And we knew that the Iron Curtain was closing around them. And what happens with guys like that in desperate situations. They have nothing to lose. They're going to die anyway. So we thought he was going to launch them on us and try and just take as many of us with him as he could. But thankfully he was a coward, right? And decided to live in a hole, man, and look out for himself. But another thing I remember being in those Saddam palaces, man, I'm glad that we went through this, tell this story, is helped me put things into perspective as a young man. But I remember being in one of his palaces, and he had literally gold toilets, everything you saw on the news, right? That the people would have seen on the news, just immaculate gold ornaments, things like that. Meanwhile, people in rags outside this palace, and he had it built on a hill. And I remember looking down from the hill one morning, and there was people digging in trash to eat, like literally trying to dig through what they could to eat, and like no look of shame, no, like this was their norm, man. And like I remember thinking to myself, like, how could you be, because he had a coffee table, completely gold coffee table, how could you be so disconnected with life that you could sit there and drink out of a gold coffee cup every morning, looking down at the people that you're supposedly leading, digging through trash, and it's their norm. Like, just that disconnect, man. It's always kind of floored me, trying to understand how people can do that, man. But things like that I remember seeing a lot of. But then there was bad things too, brother. Like as we were invading, we were destroying the infrastructure. And the one thing that we didn't plan on was, I had Iraqis tell me to my face, we're glad that you guys are here. through an interpreter, obviously. Glad you guys are here. Happy that Saddam is gone, but at least with Saddam, we had electricity and we had jobs. And it's like the American war might, like, we're still just trying to take out his army, man, let alone
Yeah.
build an infrastructure. You know what I mean? So it's learning things like that too about war, man, that even taking out the bad guy is only part of the problem, right? Like now people have no electricity. Now they have,
Yeah.
and like now you're trying to like learn how to build a country. You know, it's a whole
Yeah.
nother mission set.
Yeah. And you know what? Like I heard that a lot about people that were in Iraq. It's like, the Iraqis really were thankful, like you said there, but now there's like other terrorist groups that grew from taking out Saddam too, and it's kind of like
Yep.
a weird. It's just a weird way of life how things happen. It's just someone's got to try to take power, and I guess it just happens to be like that.
Yeah, they so what we found out early on was a lot of the Republican Guard was kind of the ones who initiated the extremism in Iraq. They're pulling guys together. I think they were buying for power. That's how they looked at it. If you look at Iraq's history, man, even Saddam, it's he who was the bloodiest and the most tyrannical is usually the one who's going to lead. So I think different bloodthirsty Republican Guard commanders started building their own, Fallujah being a prime example of that, building their own segments of what they thought was going to be the next chapter. And I think it's like any war that America fights. It's even when we beat them, the enemy, all they have to do is wait till the day that we leave, because we're going to leave.
Yeah.
And just like, look at Afghanistan, man, they just waited. Fine, we'll just wait you out. There's no way that your economy is going to allow you to continue to do this after a decade, right? But yeah, and so that was kind of it too. But it grew well beyond that, and we started clashing with them. And even right after the invasion, they were mortaring us, doing things. So they say that the insurgency came up months later. That's not true, man. We started getting hit with mortars and stuff right after the invasion.
So like the invasion, the majority of it took place in like late April, May, and then didn't Bush say like in May that the war is over type thing?
He did, yeah.
So how long did you have to stay there past that point?
Yeah, dude. So man, we were so upset because so I was with 3-4 at the time, but because I was a private, I was just out of the School of Infantry. They took a lot of us that were privates or private. I was private first class, and put us in different units as combat replacements. So even though 3-4 was going home, so basically they had selected some units that would stay, most units were going home, because the thought was exactly like you said, that the mission was over. Nobody saw the insurgency coming, but we knew we still had to have a skeleton force to like start the next chapter of whatever this new Iraq was going to look like. But
what's up, everyone? I just want to hop on here real quick and give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Fleming's Cleaning. Go ahead and use code word GWAT13 for 10% off your next residential or commercial cleaning. Also, if you haven't done so already, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. If you haven't done so, go ahead and hit Spotify up and follow there if you like to listen to podcasts on the road. Also, go ahead and follow our major socials on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at the GWAT Goons. Share this content, please. And with that, let's get back into the episode. So yeah, with your skeleton crew, what were you guys doing, how long were you guys like?
Yeah, so we were basically just there. We were running security patrols, really operating like a police force, to be honest with you, man. More of a National Guard police type force, but yeah, just mingling with the population. The Marine Corps is really big about not riding around in vehicles. The only vehicles you see Marines riding around on are like quick reaction force. It's because somebody's in contact and we're trying to get guys there quick. But getting inside houses and meeting with the people, and I was always really impressed with the Middle Eastern culture, with how they look at travelers. They welcome a traveler in. I think you saw this like Marcus Luttrell and kind of what those Afghanis did for him, but they'll welcome you in, they'll feed you, they'll clothe you, give you a place to live free of charge, and then it's their duty and their culture to lead you and guide you to where you're supposedly going. And the people were always really nice, man. I connected with the people. A lot of us did. Really started to understand their hardships, and was really looking forward to seeing them have a shot at something new, man. Another big thing to learn as I think a young man, as an American, was that the way we live life here is, and I know you hear this, but man, until you see it, right, it's a whole nother experience. But the way we live life here is really rare around the world. I think in a lot of
Yeah.
places, seeing the way those people lived, you couldn't help but root for them. You wanted, just wanted the best for them. Seeing their
Yeah.
bomb, their windows blown out and stuff, and seeing little girls go to school and stuff. That was huge. But yeah, so we stayed there. I'd say probably another 4 or 5 months, man. So we were almost in country a year at that point.
Dang.
Then came back and yep.
Bro, oh my God. So you guys are in Iraq doing this stuff, right? Like,
Yeah.
are you guys based out of Kuwait though? Like you're driving back and forth, or you guys live
No, so you have firm bases in Iraq. So like you'll get assigned to a city like Karbala, which is where we were, which is a Shia city, which generally that's a good Sunnis. Sunnis were the ones who didn't really like us that much, and who we fought, the Fallujahs, Ramatis. That's all in the Sunni triangle. But Karbala was close to that triangle. But it was a Shia city, which they generally are a lot more friendly towards Americans. And yeah, so we were just running security patrols there. We were stationed there, and we literally lived in a soccer field, man. Like it was a soccer field, and we pitched tents in the middle of a soccer field. Like that's how we lived. Kind of like we were homeless, to be honest with you, for a long time. And we would just have big old 10-gallon jugs that we would poke holes in the bottom of, and a Marine would stand on top and dump water in, man. And you get one rinse, right? And then one, but you just learn how to make it work, man. But yeah, we live like animals.
So since you guys are there for so long, right? Like you guys are, I mean, the war kicks back up though, later in that year, right?
Yeah, so that's where we were starting to get mortared and stuff. Like we would have never taken space in a soccer field, knowing mortar attacks were coming, right? But yeah, everybody kind of had that mindset. Like nobody saw that coming, and it kind of floors me, man. To be honest with you, and I think part of it was just because we broke. I think it was the Guinness World Book of Records with how fast a country has invaded another nation that has over a million troops and destroyed it. I think it was right over a month or just under a month that we did that. I think because that success was so quick and so fast that we just thought, how could they want to fight? How could they continue to want to at this point? And that wasn't the case, man. So yeah, we started getting mortared, and it was weird because the people were really friendly, but then we're getting mortared, and you're like then trying to understand what a guerrilla warfare is and kind of how we were going to have to adapt our tactics from a conventional warfare like we had just fought to a whole nother guise and scheme here that was really completely different than what we were used to. So yeah, that's kind of where we started learning that things were, you're being waved to your face, but then we just caught 4 mortar rounds back there. So how does that decipher?
And how do you feel as a young Marine right now? You did your job, right? You're doing your job, and you think you could, you want to continue being in the Marine Corps and serving the Marine Corps? Want to keep fighting the war?
Yeah, so I saw it 4 years. That's a 4-year contract, man. I signed up, and that put me at just over. I knew I was going to go back at least one more time.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we'd gotten back after a year. I saw about 3 years left, and little under 3 years left on my contract. But when we got back, I kid you not, they cut us off for 30 days leave, and we were told 2 or 3 months, we're going back to Iraq.
Oh,
so we've been over there, dude, literally before leave, man, told us. So like even on your leave, you're thinking like 8 weeks, man, I'm going back. And like you just come you just come back from country. We were still literally suntanned from the Middle Eastern sun, man. Like that hadn't even worn off. And that was the one thing about the Marine Corps was that we didn't have the bulk that like the Army would have. And so we were just constantly rotating. Like it was almost like you see the wrestlers when they clap each other into the ring, man. There's not many of us, right? So whoever's coming out needs to drink water and kind of sit down. The other guy's going back in. So
yeah, man, that is wild. I didn't know that the time away, because every other Marine that I've talked to, they deployed later, right? So it's like they got the 7-on-7 thing. You know what I mean? Like
and I got that towards second and third, but not in the beginning, man. No.
So on your do you make E4 yet, or you're still like a private, or how's that work?
No, so at that point I had made Lance Corporal, and then right before my second tour, or excuse me, right in the I'd say 2 months into my second tour, I made Corporal
Okay.
E4.
And were they like kind of grooming you to be a leader on this deployment that you're going on, the second one?
Yeah, and I think the reason why was because of where I was at in my contract. I think they looked at guys that were like corporals and sergeants that this was their last tour. That kind of what you see is what you get. So let's let them roll. I mean, and you supplement, you teach, but the younger guys like myself who did the invasion literally within our first year, they knew we're going to be around for a little while, and I think they wanted to get that right. So yeah, they put us through a lot of training, man. I mean, that's one thing I'll say about the Marines is where we don't always have the fanciest gear, we spend the money on the training. I mean, it's just constant repetition. It's, I have something on the channel about in Fallujah. They talk about how we were under investigation for headshots. And I think people like to think that, wow, they're just so elite, or and it's just repetition. I could take a high school kid, and you know this, Jeremy, I could take a high school kid, and if you give me 3 months with him in a close quarters combat environment training scenario, I'll have him
Yeah.
hitting headshots like that. It's just because we did it over and over, muscle memory, man. And so yeah, really big on that. And then they were big on sending us to things like corporal's course, sergeant's course. Marine Corps is really big on small unit leadership. And the GWAT campaign, man, was a squad leaders war. From my experience, it was not
Yeah,
officers,
absolutely.
it wasn't captains, it was that squad of 8 to 12 on the ground, man, that were going to make decisions that like ultimately impacted everybody else. And I love that, man. I thought that was my first feeling of really feeling like you had purpose, like you really had
Yeah.
purpose. And I took it seriously, man, for my shortcomings, I think, as a young man, like once again, back to never wanting to make a mistake that would get my guys killed. Like even when guys were going out on the weekends, man, I was studying my MCIs, Marine Corps Institute books, going over and people say, oh, it's because the discipline. It wasn't discipline. I think it was fear of missing something, man. Like feeling like, you know what I mean? When you first take over a leadership position, you're proud of it, but you're also scared, man, because I shouldn't say scared, but apprehensive. You don't want to make that mistake.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad I took that as serious as I did.
Yeah. No, absolutely. There needs people. I mean, it's just like anything else, man. Like you're gonna like Kobe Bryant was always doing crazy practices. You know what I mean? Like you're trying to.
It's a good point.
It's just like you perfecting your craft as a leader. And it's not only to lead those troops, but remember you want them to replace you one day too.
100%.
And I don't know what that leads me up to my next question. Like, what are they telling you about this second deployment compared to your first one? Are they, because we're going into the surge?
Yeah. So yeah, after it was a whole different workup package. So it was before we would deploy at that time, we would do a workup package, which is just a series of different training evolutions that are going to prepare you for that fight that you're going to. And you knew the city generally within a month before going, what city you were going to be assigned to. And at that time, that's when they started putting all the Marines in the Sunni Triangle. That became kind of our home, and it was a bloodbath, man.
Yeah.
It really was, yeah, for
What?
sure. I mean, that was my experience. It was the real deal, dude. The Wild
Yeah.
West, for sure.
What can you explain what the Sunni Triangle was? My friend was there, but he didn't do a good job explaining it. So can you
Yeah,
explain what
no,
the Sunni Triangle was?
absolutely, man. So if you look at Iraq, kind of Iraq's like a hand. In the middle is Baghdad, and you've got the major rivers running through it. Just off to I believe it's the west of Baghdad, I could draw a triangle, geographical triangle. Within that triangle is all the Sunni tribes. The Sunni tribes being the ones that are not very friendly to Americans, and that we were going to end up fighting. If you look at the majority, it's Sunni that were kind of radical against the U.S. And within that triangle had the cities Fallujah, Ramadi. I mean, the biggest battles for the entire war were in that space. And the other thing about it was that there was a change of government at this time. So the Sunnis realized that they were the minority population in the country of Iraq. And if you look back all the way to the Sykes-Picot Act, man, it was white guys drawing lines on a map after World War I that just had no idea what they were doing. not taking any of these tribes into consideration with how they populate or draw off a nation. And that's why in the Middle East, we see so many Middle Eastern countries with predominantly Shia or predominantly Sunni. There's not a mix of demographics, which there should be in that type of tribal hierarchy. But anyway, yeah. So the Sunnis had in their triangle had no natural resources, minority population, no natural resources. Saddam was a Sunni, always looked out for the Sunnis because their land is not going to produce like the Shias will. And with that change of government coming, the Sunnis knew the Shias were going to take over because they were friendly with the American, and they feared reprisals, man. And I didn't think that would happen. And as a young kid, I was wrong. I mean, there was hit squads, all sorts of stuff that the Shias were doing that to the Sunnis that just blew my mind. Like they were taking revenge, to be honest with you, and they were doing it on their own time. But so the Sunnis, I think, knowing that the Shias were coming after them, that they had lost their figurehead Saddam, who took care of them, and then they also had the ties to the extremists like the Bin Ladens and things, Al Qaeda outside of Iraq. It was really gearing up to be the place that would be the showdown, man. I mean, Fallujah, Ramadi, those battles, we found currency, paper, money on bodies there that were deceased from all over the world, man. Australia, even Europe. It became kind of the showground. That people say Iraq, but it was really the Sunni Triangle. It became that place where it's like, everybody come throw your buds down, man, and let's do this. And so the extremists came from all over the world, and we were there, and it was just years and years of just brutal conflict. You know, we always talk about the big battles, man, but I think the smaller engagements too, just the day-to-day being ambushed and waking up every day to rocket attacks, and as the sun goes down, mortar attacks, and just I think that grind, I think, wears guys down a lot too over time, because you're never able to take a breath, man.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot of kinetic activity.
Yeah, 100%. You know, they get the fame, I think, the big battles, man, but I'll be honest with you, the big battles are just a volume of the day-to-day. It's just a higher volume of the same thing, you know?
Yeah. And I've mentioned this in my other shows with everybody else, you know, that's the thing about the infantry. You don't get the break like the soft community does, where they come in, they get to leave after they're done with all their cool stuff. Like the infantry has to stay, keep a presence, because we need to have that area, you know what I mean? And I'm glad you mentioned it, man, because the day-to-day kinetic activity, and it's literally, the battles are just bigger. Just that's all it is. That's all it is. Just longer and bigger.
And at least the battles, you know, you're going into it, man. On the ambush stuff, it's, you know, one patrol. You can take 3 patrols a day, and patrol 1 and 3, you're gonna run right into an ambush. And it's just that, you know, never being able to, which I guess is a good thing, but I think that's also contributed to the PTSD, man. Is that the daily grind of that. I mean, just going to use the restroom. Yeah, I know it's what everybody I've known, I've been in combat with, can tell you a time where they almost died doing that from a mortar or from. So just nothing safe, man.
Yeah. Well, how is this deployment compared to like your last one? Are you guys getting any more ticks, or are you guys?
We really started going at it, man. I mean, it was gearing up for Fallujah, and we started seeing it getting worse and worse. We lost our CO in an engagement, Captain Gannon. Yeah, my son's actually named after him. His son too. Captain Gannon has a son, and he's the few guys left in the battalion. We get together, and he's kind of like our prodigal son, but he's a really, really good kid too. But yeah, named my son after him. We started just taking a lot more contact. We were on the Syrian border at that time in Husayba, running the vehicle checkpoint, and that's where the weapons were running in. And so we were not only trying to check for those weapons, but you're just in a vulnerable position with those vehicle checkpoints. There's only so much you can do. And, vehicle-borne IEDs, they'd hit us with those. They had a lot of suicide bomber vests, huge trucks full of explosives, just decimating areas, a lot of sniper activity. And these are the things you start noticing we're picking up. And then the ambushes, both with IEDs and then also with small arms fire. And then it just got worse and worse until Fallujah. And that's was kind of the key point there. I was so glad, man, to be even though I was wounded at that point. So I got in Al Qaim after Fallujah. We came back, and in Al Qaim, right, literally my last patrol, my second tour, man. I got hit with a 155 shell, blew out my elbow. That was a compound fracture. Part of my bicep was hanging out, fractured my cheekbone, shattered my right femur. Excuse me. The bomb first blew me up, shattered my legs, broke both tibias, one femur, and then they said it picked me up almost the whole story, man. I blacked out. I heard the cell phone ring, and then I blacked out, and then I just remember looking up and seeing the dust kind of rise. That's when I heard the small arms fire. And I heard at that point, Corporal Beaver, get down, because they couldn't see when that bomb goes off in the street, man, it kicks all that dust up. And you've got a squad that's dispersed, right? Because you don't want one IED taking out 5 guys. So you've got dispersion between you. And they didn't know I was hit yet. And that's when I saw the guy, man, literally right above me, brother. I had one of the red handkerchiefs on over his head, and started shooting at me. And that's when I looked down and saw my injuries. I knew I was pretty bad.
Yeah.
And looked at my weapon, man, and the weapon was just mangled, dude. And so I knew that was not going to play. Even if it had worked, I didn't realize that I was not going to be able to hold it.
Yeah.
And then he shot to the right of me. I saw the impacts, and I started trying to like throw my body, like wheel my body to the left, just any momentum I could. And that's when I felt him strafe my legs. So he's shooting an AK, but he hit me in the right femur 3 times, and then hit me in the left leg twice.
Oh, wow.
Broke my femur, dude. But thankfully, man, like didn't hit any major arteries, nothing like that. Just went right into meat and bone. Hurt like hell. I tell people, I didn't feel the bomb at first. Even with the compound fracture, I don't know if I was in shock or what was going on from that. But man, I felt those rounds. Every single one of them, man. It's like a fire poker being almost like glaring red hot and somebody stabbing it through your leg. That's what the sensation was like for me. At that point, dude, I was just ready to die. I'm like, geez, like, just finish me, man. You know what I mean? That's when I started feeling the bomb pain, and I knew I couldn't move my legs anymore. And my best friend, who ended up dying in my next tour, ran through that ambush and shot and killed the guy that was trying to finish me off. And his Corporal Beer was his name. It's an amazing dude, man. My best friend I've ever had, and killed the guy. He fell at my feet, and I was screaming at the guy because I felt like it was kind of a shitty thing to do, man. Like I always gave guys at that point in my career, like if I knew I lethally wounded a guy, I let him have his last prayers. I let him, say what he needed to say. Like I never tried to finish the guy off, so to speak, right? And I felt like that guy was doing that with me. He knew I was done, and I mean, everybody thought I was done.
Yeah,
trying to finish me off. I just thought that was kind of a. So I'm screaming at the guy. They get me on a chopper, and then flew me to Al Qaim to get initial. I was an urgent surgical, stop the bleeding. They couldn't give me morphine at the time either, man, because I would have bled out. It thins your blood. It's too many bullet wounds, and then from there they processed me all the way to Germany, man. And even being out of country, I remember that being like one of the loneliest times of my life, man, because it was like. Even being in the shit show like that, like you were with your brothers, man, like, and that, like, people just don't understand that, but like, it's like you still had family. And then you go to this window, dude, where you're just in a room by yourself. Like I still had dirt under my skin and shit from combat, man. Like my parents flew out to Germany and said, you look like almost like an animal. Just the way that I think our senses work. So I was literally plucked right out of combat. And I just remember being real lonely, man. And I couldn't, they had coated the shrapnel inside of the bomb with goat feces. And so it gave me a blood infection real bad. It made me real sick. And they were saying they might have to amputate my right leg and that I had to get the blood flow working in that leg, man. And I was up and down the stairs, man, 2, 3 in the morning with those crutches, dude. Just like, I was not going to let them take my leg, man. You know what I mean? Falling, like, hurt myself at times. Nurses were getting pissed off because they felt like this is a dangerous thing. But I'm like, listen, like, imagine if it was your leg. Like, imagine if it was your leg, man. Would it be that dangerous for you? Like, and they were with me on that. And anyway, I got the blood flow working, man, and I was able to keep my leg. And the nurses were amazing, man. Knitted me like a little bear and stuff. And it was, that was a whole nother facet of it. But yeah, that's kind of how I ended my second tour, being all blown up and shot up like that.
Man, dude, that's powerful story, dude. And I mean, you were in one of the most significant battles in the GWAT too. Like your second deployment was like, I don't know what else to say, but just on and popping, dude. It was just
I
all over the
appreciate
place.
it, dude. I kid you
Yeah,
not, man. It haunts my dreams to this day sometimes, man. It's
yeah,
that place was just in the whole lead up to it. It's like you knew it was coming, man. You know what I mean? Like you just
yeah.
knew it was coming.
Can can you like explain like when they told you all, yo, we're gonna do the Battle of Fallujah? Like, what was like,
So they
like
basically just, yeah, man. They basically just, so the way the Marine Corps works in those situations is knowing we're in the Sunni Triangle, we're not that far from each other. They'll start pulling, they'll leave a skeleton crew behind whatever base you're at or city you're covering. You won't do a lot of forward operating patrols, but you'll do base security. But they'll pull most of the Marines out of that, and they'll start kind of congregating us in whatever city we're going to fight in. And Fallujah was the one. And I remember Fallujah being bad even at the end of my first deployment, because I remember we had an ice guy. We get those blocks of ice for the water, and he didn't bring us ice one day. And we asked him why, and he said that they tried to kill him in Fallujah because that's where he got the ice for supposedly supplying us with ice. I guess that's a penalty by death over there. And so I remember that was my first time I ever heard Fallujah was that ice guy saying they tried to kill me for getting you guys ice. And anyway, so yeah, fast forward and the next deployment, here we are in the city. I remembered that, come full circle. And Fallujah is the city of mosques. So it's the most religious city there. There's mosques everywhere. And just kind of like the easy place to pick for the religious fanatical, right? That wants to do battle would be Fallujah. And they geared us up, man, and said, hey, you're going to go join the 1st Marine Division in this fight, and you guys will be assigned street sectors. And we knew the game by that point. We knew kind of what was expected, but nobody could prepare you for that. My son has since had the video game and stuff. I mean, none of that, even not to be one of those guys that says that you have to, but it was just the most unique. There was booby traps everywhere, man. There's ambushes, interlocking lines of fire. They had machine guns set up like professionally, man. Like not,
yeah,
a bunch of thugs in a house, but like they had serious, operational design to their defenses
yeah.
there, man.
There was a guy on, I don't know if have you heard of the Sean Ryan show? He explained the Battle of Fallujah was like how we would imagine Normandy would have been, like storming the beach of Normandy.
Dude, I think
And
that's it. Yeah, that's a great analogy.
and I'm not, dude, I'm not taking anything away from that because like I could imagine like that's one of the most significant battles in the GWAT, like I said, and dude, just hearing what you're saying, and you could tell by just your emotion by talking about this story, man. It was like one of the most intense things you probably ever been through.
Dude, it was, man. I learned in that city, brother, I got to a point with it where you're so scared, man. Like no matter how tough you are, how good you are, every guy kind of gets a different feeling, a sensation. Every time we start getting shot at, even after I'd been in more firefights than I can count, man, I would still get that feeling like my heart was in my throat, beating in my throat, just because the immense amount of fear. But that place, man, I didn't want to stop. And people look at that like, oh, it's because you're tough, or no, man. It's because I realized when we started stopping and like taking breaks or like slowing down that it started
Yeah,
catching up to us what the hell was going on, man. It's like
right.
my brain in the thick of it, just let's go, let's get it over with. And when we
Survival.
started slowing down and realizing, holy shit, man, like we're not gonna like you knew you weren't gonna survive it. And like I came to that realization in that battle that I really just had just kind of this talk with God. I said, I just believe that you're going to take me on the day that you have already destined to take me. And whether it's here in combat or back home, a piano falls on my head. Like, that's my beliefs. And I need to operate like that's my beliefs. And so I just honestly, for the first time, and I didn't even know you could do it, I let go of the fear of death, man. I just accepted that I was going to die there. Like, that's how bad that battle, you just accepted, like, it's only a matter of timing. I mean, one of these streets is going to get me because
Yeah.
it was that brutal, dude. They
Uh-huh.
were
Yeah.
everywhere. And I tell people I could spin you in a circle and you could stop at any point as I spin you, any point, and I could show
Right.
you where there's enemy engaging you from that point. And
Yeah.
just everywhere, bro.
Oh my god, dude. Man.
And they were
How?
really good at being able to move. I've always wondered how they were able to move because we would cordon off streets and things if there was an underground like Gaza thing going on, or because if you stayed in an area for too long or became too stagnant, which was easy to do because Fallujah, the safest place to be is inside of a cleared house, and
Yeah.
you're outside of a house, dude. Like it's open game, and you know that. But you would stay in a if you stayed in a cleared house where you're waiting for other units to get abreast for too long, it's like they surrounded you within, let's say, half an hour, and you were being engaged from everywhere, man. And it's just the most brutal shit you can think of, dude. I mean, you have so many casualties, and you're taking so many casualties that it would be hard enough if you had an exit route, but then you're pinned down, man. I mean, you're literally once again surrounded. You don't know. You're still trying to figure out where there's an open avenue that you can take, and usually there's not, as you come to find out. But have
Yeah.
casualties screaming, machine guns hitting you. Some houses that were supposed to be cleared weren't cleared, or they moved back in, and so now you're being hit from the rear. The rear. It was chaos like that, man.
Yeah, it was just overwhelming, dude. Like you guys couldn't catch a break in the middle of it, Um, so when you're in Germany, let's fast forward. So when you're in Germany and you're injured, how long does it take you to get recovered?
Took me about 9 months, man. I was able to make my third tour, my final tour. And so yeah, I healed up really fast, man. I
Yeah, it sounds
did
like
the
it.
work. Yeah, I did the work in Germany, dude. My bones. I remember even the doctor saying, man, and it's odd because I've never like had this experience in my life. I've always just kind of healed like people always do.
Yeah,
But with that experience, man, when I came back off leave, and of course they did everything they said, but they just said like your body's healing incredibly quick. I remember being kind of shocked by that because I never heard anything like that. And lucky me, man, it was healing incredibly quick enough for me to volunteer for my third tour, which I didn't have to go back. They didn't make me go to another tour, but
hmm,
exactly what you said earlier, man, that I was a squad leader by that point. I had my guys. We had done everything together, man, like literal brothers, man. And what people don't realize is that you go over there for them. Even after that, I was scared as hell to go back, man, because I realized how close I was to death. And but then the thought of them going over there and them having some sergeant come over from security forces or something where it's not a direct combat unit and getting some of them killed, like I would never forgive myself for that. And not that
yeah,
I have all the right answers, but at least I can take it on the chin if I mess it up. You know what I mean,
mhm.
man? Like not being there, something about the whole not being there thing just wasn't. I couldn't live with that. So I volunteered, man, and yeah. By that time though, I had healed up. We had finally some real rest time. I re-enlisted at that point. That's when I got to go to the different schools, and I got to go to Marine Corps Scout Sniper School. I went to Army Sniper School. I did jump school with the Army. We were doing a lot of cross training at that time. And for most Marines, when you re-enlist, that's where you're going to get your best packages. So, in order for me to get the $50,000 enlistment bonus at that point, I
Yeah,
had to do these schools, man. And so it's like I was glad, like the schools are cool, but I kind of just wanted to get the re-enlistment money. So went to those schools, did that, changed my MOS, still an infantry guy, but also went to mortar school too during that time at School of Infantry, and learned both 60s and 80s as well. And at that time, 3-7 was finally almost fully replenished. It was almost a whole new battalion, man. So we had quite a bit of time before we went back. Most of the senior guys were all getting out. And there's a guy named Major Quinn, man. I still to this day have him on Facebook, talk with him. Just brilliant officer. And he came to me, man, and he said, I know that you have other options, but I'd really like for you to come back with us. And he goes, Beaver, I don't have, my nickname at that point was Beaver, but for Beaver. But he said, I don't have any senior guys on the team, only a handful of you guys. I really need you to go back. And because literally it was a full, fresh crew, never been to war, nothing, not even the leadership. They were like from
yeah.
security units. And he asked me to come back, man. And I did because I knew my guys were going back too. And yeah, we made it back to a lovely city that would come to be known as Ramadi, man. And Chris Kyle was there and all those guys too.
What? Let me ask a little personal thing in this point of your career. So you're what, like maybe like 22 years old, maybe?
I have to, man. You know what? I hate to give you a number because I could be off, but
Are
you
you?
know, I
But
was after my first 4 year enlistment. So yeah, I would say 24, 23, 24.
okay. So and are you just still like a? You're not. Are you married or are you single Marine still or what?
No. So I actually was. I had a child with a friend here in where I live in Houston. It wasn't planned by any means, and so um, I wasn't married, so to speak, but we were very close. Spent a
Yeah,
lot of time together, and I raised him. We raised him together, and for a lot of years. But I was gone. I was gone too, and
yeah,
I missed his birth actually on that third tour. Man, he's born October of that year.
yeah,
But yeah, no, I wasn't married, but we were definitely together for quite a
yeah.
while.
I only bring this up because like there's a lot of men in your situation. They miss the birth of their child, and it's hard for them
Yeah,
to cope. It's still even like they're adult. The children are adults now, and they still beat themselves up about stuff like this. And it's just
yeah,
like you're a young man, and it's like two extremes, right? You want to be a father, but at the same time,
yeah.
you can't let your brother down either. It's kind of like a weird decision making process.
100% family, and yeah, dude, because it's two different families. It's all family, but it's just two different. And the way I looked at that, man, was I know one's going to be safe, and that the other is not. And my situation was unique. Where had there been more veteran guys there, maybe I wouldn't have felt as called. But I knew when my guys were going, man, I was going to go 100%
Yeah,
because it's just that's you know how it is. Like
absolutely.
you can literally send them to the gates of hell, man, and you're grabbing your boots, because you just got to be with them. That's
Yeah,
all.
yeah. So Ramadi, oh 06, right? 06 Ramadi,
Yep.
and IEDs are starting to start up. What are you? You're a senior guy now. You're one of the senior guys. They telling y'all, hey, the war's switching from like small arms fire to IEDs and stuff now.
So yeah, I started basically operating as a sniper at that point within Ramadi. Never
Mhm.
worked with Chris Kyle. We were on operations together, but didn't ever like communicate with him directly or work with him directly in that sense. But yeah, that's really where I learned to employ kind of the long rifle and learn how to operate in a different sense. Still work directly with the infantry. They always held a security detail for us, and my guys did that. They would hold it for me, and because I was a senior guy, my battalion commander, him and I worked directly together. We were called the Intel Cell. So he formed this one squad of all his senior guys to kind of be his intelligence gatherers, his quick strike guys, just his sure hands, right, for different ambushes and things like that. And that's we started operating that way, man. Started using kind of all that time that we had spent in country to learn about I'd be able to gather intel, learn what the mosques were saying, you start learning these things as you get older that, hey, it's not just a prayer. Like, what are they actually saying on that? It's a different language. Like, does anybody ever write down, like, do we have an interpreter ever interpreting what these mosques are actually saying? And the more you spend in country, you start realizing, like, they're trying to indoctrinate the local population, or they're telling people in 2 days there's going to be a battle. And, like, they're literally saying it right in front of us. And without us, documenting that, we don't know. So taking things like that, but then doing a lot of the IEDs and the vehicle-borne IEDs were terrible out there, man. They even had a old Russian anti-aircraft gun, automatic gun that they wheeled the barrel down straight onto a street and lit up one of our convoys with
Yeah,
anti-aircraft fire, man, just blowing guys apart. So just employing crazy shit like that. Flechette rounds as well, those rockets, French rockets. The most feared weapon I think I've ever. There's nothing that's created more fear for me personally was than those, but they would shoot them down the street and they'd burn, and then all those steel darts would come out. There'd be hundreds of steel darts, and I'd literally seen them go through a Marine's Kevlar, through the skull, all the way through back outside the other side of the Kevlar, man, and they would just kind of spread. You could see them like little fire darts spread. So getting hit with like really sophisticated stuff at that point, bigger ambushes, bigger battles, clearing sections of the city, and then the bigger battles, same thing. The battles were always the same, man. It was cordon the city off, meaning we're surrounding the city, and then everybody's gonna start on one side, and we either go east to west, north to south, and you don't stop until the shooting stops. You know what I mean? And that's
yeah,
kicking indoors, man, clearing houses, bounding Overwatch.
Yeah. So you were mainly a sniper on this deployment, huh?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Still
Is this
working
where you?
with the infantry battalion 37, but operating as a
Yeah.
sniper at that point.
And so you're basically like just providing Overwatch while they go clear houses
It was
and
yeah, a host of different things, man. It was that. It was doing a lot of like IED preventative work, where you would see the guys, and we got really good at that. Jocko had a little interview come out where he was talking about how feared snipers were in Ramadi.
yeah.
We just they had good snipers there too, mind you, but learning. I think the city was so big that with the more sophisticated weaponry, it was trying to track that down, see kind of who was shipping those supplies into the city. It was getting more sophisticated in the way that we attack things too, knowing that we had high value targets at that time. You're seeing kind of the way that we approach a guerrilla warfare becoming more tactical and more strategic in a sense. Less security patrols and more focused, targeted work. Like, basically you would get a manila folder, man, and there'd be a picture inside, and you're looking for identifying features, whether it be birthmarks, tattoos. You ever want to know if there's a real sniper, he won't have a tattoo on him. I guarantee you, I'll have one tattoo. You'll never find a sniper with a tattoo. And the reason why is I can't tell you how many guys, man, that I've neutralized because I've been able to see that tribal tat on his left arm means that is Abu Bakr because he has that tribe. You know what I mean? I'm looking at his face, and now I know that, oh, there's his tat. And you'd be surprised, man, how much that can, that alone will confirm birthmarks, things like that. So kind of learning more surgical stuff, like how to operate. I got to work with the Green Berets. I got to work with Delta Force there, with the prisons. Work with Navy SEALs a lot. Wasn't really impressed with the Navy SEALs. No offense, man. They could have just been the unit Ramadi I was working with, but I didn't work with them that often. But felt like they were kind of cocky, man. Which they were good, but it's like, the streets out there, Jeremy, are unforgiving, man. It doesn't matter how good you are.
Yeah.
There's some young SEAls that had to learn that still. But the Green Berets, man, they were the ones that I really, really looked up to. They requested us specifically. Everybody did, Marine Corps snipers, because that's kind of where we're world renowned for our shooting capabilities and the way that we employ those systems. But yeah, they were older guys, man, and all really salty guys. And I remember thinking, like, how are they going to keep up with us in a firefight? Dude, they'd have packs on their back every step for step. I remember being engaged on a rooftop one time. I remember by that time I was a sergeant. I remember him, the squad leader of this Green Beret squad that was attached to was coming up the stairs, and his guys were behind me screaming, "Beaver!" And I remember when he screamed that, being scared because I thought it was like an enemy threat behind me or something. It seemed kind of like that type of shout. I shit you not, man. They run up on that rooftop and we're engaging. He said, "Save some for us." And they came up, dude, it sounds like a Hollywood fucking, but dude, that legitimately happened.
Yeah.
And they came up there laughing and fucking ripping rounds, man. And I remember thinking that was the coolest shit I'd ever seen, dude.
Yeah. No, yeah, dude. My friend, he was an Army sniper. He went to the Marine Corps sniper school, and he was there too at the same time you were. And he said, "Yeah, y'all have really good training and everything like that." And dude, man, I got a lot of respect for you guys that were there in the earlier days, man. It was just there's like four major things I always say about it. It's like Ramadi, Fallujah, and then the battle, where they did Kandahar, and then the Korengal Valley, and then man, it's just, yeah, dude, you did a lot of, man, you were in it, dude, and I got a lot of respect for you, brother.
Appreciate that, man.
Yeah, you did a lot, man, and I don't really care what. I know a lot of people, like you can see on TikTok, they're jealous of not having the car. They're like, it'll just make you this. I'm like, dude, this guy's you're a true freaking warrior, dude, and you even almost lost your life. Yeah, man, it's I commend you for everything you've done, dude. Those are some hard ass deployments, dude, and they were not, like I said, no offense to the soft community or whatever. We're not talking about 3 or 4 months. We're talking about a long period of time, you know, and that takes a toll on takes a toll on your young body.
100%. I think on your mind too, man. I appreciate that too, man. I just, it's, it's kind of messed up, man, because I think I know a lot of guys, man, that would have done everything that the rest of us did. I think it's just you get picked and chosen, man,
Yeah.
and that was really the only thing that separated us from anybody else. We just got picked for some of those harder things that popped off, but at the end of the day, man, I think it's like I said, the guy. That's what I meant earlier about saying it. The guys that go over there, because and I know, we both went over there, and it's rolling the dice. You don't know what's coming, man. And I think that's where like the part that makes me look at these guys like family, like you, like we're brothers, man, because it takes a certain individual to say, I'll go ahead and take less than minimum wage to go over there and sling lead with guys who, let's be honest, who have been fighting their whole lives since they were children. A lot of these guys, like they know combat. That's
Yeah.
something else that the news doesn't tell you. Is these guys are not farmers with pitchforks. Like, these guys know how to kill. They've been doing it a long time, whether
Yeah.
it be other tribes or whatever. But having guys that, like, let's do it together, man, and let's roll the dice. And I'm more proud of that than I think anything else, man. And I was going to say this earlier, and I lost my train of thought, but it took me very long going through that to realize that combat truly is, man, when you really look at it, it's love, man.
Yeah.
Because it's what guys are willing to endure and go through, man, to look out for each other. And that allowed me to almost kind of just peacefully full circle that whole cycle of what had happened, the horrors of all of it. Because I mean, all of it's real, man. The guys screaming. I've heard guys call for their mothers. I've had Marines ask me to finish them off because they're in so much pain. Things like that just, Iraqi mother running to me in a firefight, in the middle of a firefight with her baby. We almost shot her because we're thinking it's a bomb, but just you get that inner voice, right? And I always listen to that thing. But she hands you a baby, and I remember the baby being limp, man, and its head rolling back and the eyes opening, and just flies you couldn't even see the eyeball, just
Yeah.
flies, like 7, 8 flies on each, and just seeing the hardships, man, they endured. But yeah, it's the brotherhood, man, and it's the fact that, like, those little girls are going to school now, man. And I always remember thinking to myself, like, what if a bunch of rough guys like us went over there, opened up education for the little girl that's going to develop the cure to cancer in Iraq? You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It takes a warrior, man, to create that kind of environment, where we won't be any value to you in the lab. Well, we can create a system where those things can flourish. And so, man, I'm just really proud of that stuff. But yeah, it took me a long time, brother, to process that, to understand that,
Yeah.
to get over the lost my, all my closest friends over there in the fight. That was really, really hard. One of them, Beaver, the guy who saved me, I didn't even get to tell him goodbye. A lot of my guys, I listened to them die in a chopper. It kills me, man, because everything they used to stress to them was that everything we do as one. If the left arm moves, the right arm knows about it, and we move as one. And we had gotten to a point through really training and just rehearsing nonstop, man. So we were really good. And when they died, I had been on an OP for 3 days, came back. They were sitting in a Humvee getting ready to take some grunts out. And I said, let me go get my shit. I'll come and I'll go out with you guys. I said, no, we're just doing a quick drop off. And at that time, to your point, Jeremy, one of the junior guys, my best friend Beaver, was getting ready to take over a squad. So I wanted to show him that I trusted him, man. Like, hey, you run with a Beaver, you got it, man, because he could handle anything, man. Like, he'd been in country and knew the game. And so I wanted to show him that. So that's why I didn't jump on the back of that Humvee, man. But they went and they got hit with an IED, propane tank, and blew all their legs off. And they got onto the chopper. I remember being in the CP. I heard the explosion from the chow hall, ran to the CP, man, and it was within 10 minutes of me telling them bye to leave the base. And that's when I heard on the radio just the chaos. We lost 3 corpsmen that night that
Yeah.
went mentally, had to be relieved from duty from trying to apply the tourniquets. They were blaming themselves. But anyway, I heard them on the chopper, man, and it's like their final act. They literally died within 30 seconds of each other. It's like they waited to die together, man. And
Yeah.
and it broke my heart, man, because it was like all you wanted was to be on that chopper dying with them. You know what I mean? Like, that survivor's
Yeah.
guilt thing is the realest stuff, dude. So
Yeah. Absolutely.
a lot of growth in that, a lot of learning.
Yeah. And so after this deployment, are you are you okay with the Marine Corps still, or do you start
Yeah, absolutely,
noticing? You
man.
still know? Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I don't think the horrors of war is the Marines' fault. I think that's man's fault. Like human beings, we need to figure that
Yeah.
out. Marine Corps is there to
Yeah.
fight war and to win, man. But
Yeah.
no, I love the Marine Corps. I love it with all my heart, man. I'm very proud of it. And I'm not probably, I would do it all over again, knowing all the hardship, the wounded, being all of it, man, because it allowed me to kind of catapult me to where I'm at in my life now, and just allowed me to be somebody that I'm comfortable being.
Yeah. How long did you end up doing? How many years?
10 years, man.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah,
like me. Did 9.
yeah, yeah.
um.
It says like 9, 8 months, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And what led you of getting out?
So my body, I'd gotten to the point, man, at that point with the violence that I just knew I was done, man. There was one shot that I had taken where I'd watched a woman, the wife. I always tried to take a shot where no kids would see, or if possible, no kids or the wife, even if they were involved. That's just something I needed for my own psyche. And the guy had come back from the Hajj going to Mecca, Medina. I'd been waiting for 2 days. This was a shot I took right before my friends died. So it all was all this one moment event. And I saw her rip the hair out of her, took the shot, took care of the target. Guy killed like 17 Marines, vehicle bomb maker. She grabbed two handfuls of hair and literally ripped it out of her head. And I remember the little girl screaming and wailing. And even though that guy deserved it, and was the 17 mothers that here back in the States got calls because of him, like you can't help but be involved in that human moment, man. Like that was his
Yeah.
wife, that was his daughter, and like that was the final blow for me, man. I just said, you know what, I'm done. I knew right then and there, man, I was done. And thankfully, it was the end of that reenlistment cycle. So yeah, started processing out because I just knew I couldn't. At that point, I kind of looked at myself as a liability. I mean, I would still do it, but I think I was realizing that if I don't stop now, like I'm gonna be a zombie. You know what I mean? Like this is
Yeah.
gonna have long-term effects, man. Like
Hmm.
it's time.
How is it the time frame from when you got out till now that you've been able to be who you are right now? Like, how is it the process?
It was hard at first transitioning, being so used to kind of the way that we did things in the military to the civilian environment. But started working in sales, man, and I think I just transferred that responsibility that I used to have towards those guys and my son at that time to now just my son. And I had met my wife at that point, and we kind of were forming this new family. And I think that kind of became my purpose, man. And I'm a big purpose guy. I've got to feel like, for where I'll quit on myself easy, man. I won't do it for people that, you know what I mean? I think that's why I
Yeah.
was so good in the military, man, because I'll be honest, man. Like there's guys that are going to be more individually tough than I am, but when it comes to me pulling my weight for the team or something, man, like I'm going to do that every time. Like there's just
Right.
something about it. But yeah, that they became my purpose. Started learning how to sell and really working hard. Started noticing that I had things that other guys didn't have that were civilians coming out of
Hmm.
college, like leadership, things like that, and um, did very well, man. It catapulted me all the way. I'm a global VP now of sales and marketing for a software company, and um, it was all of that, all of those character skill sets. It was the hardships we endured, and just the perseverance, man. Just realizing that if you really want something, man, like you've got to be willing to do the things today that others won't do, to have the things tomorrow that others won't have, and all the Marine Corps really built the foundation that I operated off of to get here. And now I'm kind of at the point in life, man, where I'm realizing that my kids are most important, and not that they ever weren't top priority, but um, titles and things aren't holding the same value they did when I was younger. You know what I mean? It's more
Absolutely.
my family, man. Like I'm really feeling that, and it's been kind of a weird shift because you don't initiate it; it just kind of happens. But that's kind of where I'm at with it now. But it was hard,
Yeah.
man, to be away from, because you feel like you're kind of alone on a boat, man. I think as a GWAT vet, even though there's a lot of
Yeah.
us, we don't
Yeah.
talk very much, and So you don't even know in most cases, but I always missed it. I always missed the guys, man. I missed the camaraderie. There's one thing I'll say is that you get out in the civilian world, not to be negative, but it's something to be aware of. That people will stab you in the back professionally, personally. And one thing I'll say about the GWAT crew and our guys is that you just knew, man, whether they were Army, whatever service. I think it was our generation, man, and those guys that were called, that you could trust them, man, and you could trust them in the worst of situations, like with your life.
Yeah.
And that was the hardest part for me, was realizing that that's not how it is out in this world, man. You know what I mean? There is nobody is gonna come risk it for you, man. And what was common for us is very rare for them.
Yeah,
But
the
I'm
tribe
always so
thing.
grateful for that.
Yeah, like a tribe, right? Like
For sure,
the
man.
you know. So we have a lot of, obviously, you said earlier, PTSD. People are struggling with the loss of their friends, the loss of their family members. They have anger outbursts and stuff like that. What kind of advice would you guys give them, um, for now? They still can't get over it and everything else like that.
Great. Yeah, 100%, man. And I'd say something that I've done is I've watching this epidemic, man, for years now, has just been one of the most brutal things I've ever had to witness. And it's one thing to watch guys die in combat. It's a whole other thing to come home and watch one of your brothers do what the enemy couldn't do and neutralize himself, and then have to bury him like that. And once again, it's us not talking about it. I know that as men, we're taught as young boys, like, not to talk about our feelings, but to the GWAT veterans, and like, we've been through combat, guys. Like, the days of you being vetted for being tough or being a bitch or something like that, those are long gone, man. You guys have already passed that test. So I would say start talking, man. That was something I had a hard time doing, because you don't know who can relate to you with that. And so that's honestly why I started that TikTok channel, man. I'm not a social media guy. I have probably 6 people on Instagram as followers or whatever. I just never been my thing, but I thought it would be really good for me, and it would be good for other guys if we could start having groups, whether even social media, outside social media, just little spots where we can kind of congregate, we can shoot the shit amongst each other, and help each other out. And that's why I built that and started asking people, what are some things you've learned to heal? Like, what works for you? What's always worked for me is nature hikes, man. I go out and I do nature hikes, and it's where I kind of met God. And my best friend who died, he brought me to God, but I really met God on those hikes. And kind of who I was internally, doing a lot of those solo hikes, taking my daughter with me, and they've just been some of the greatest moments of my life. But there's a lot of science behind how that heals you and things. But I would say the biggest thing is that it's not going to heal itself. It's not something maybe you've survived it, but that doesn't mean that you've healed from it. And it can always creep back up at later times. And so what I would say is proactively address it. Like, mental wellness should kind of be looked at almost as rifle maintenance, right? Like, you wouldn't let your rifle get rusty. You wouldn't if there was a problem or an issue with the rifle, you wouldn't just let it sit there. You would find a way to fix that.
Yeah.
It's no different with this, man. You've got to proactively address it to heal. And there's a lot of tools, cool tips and tricks that we can help you with, with the group. And also just if you reach out directly. So that's my biggest thing. I also work at Camp Hope. I'm a mentor there on my off time, helping those guys dealing with PTSD. And just don't ever be ashamed of any of this stuff. The more I've researched it, Jeremy, the more you realize that it's not a choice, man. It's PTSD does a literal physical change in the neurological brain, man. And it's like, you can either try and act tough and deal with that problem, or you could say, you know what, I had no decision on this, been through hell, made it through hell. Now I have to find a way to address it. And so that'd be my biggest thing, is just because you survived doesn't mean you've healed. You have to do the work to heal it. And there's a lot of different spots that we can show you how to do that.
Yeah. Well, with that, Josh Beaver, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching this episode. Once again, please subscribe, share this content. If you have anybody that you wish to get onto the show, please send them my way. And with that, catch you on the next episode.